What caused Zillow to lose $500 million? What was the twig that snapped in the wood? Hi, everybody. My name is Honish. I am the former head loss mitigator for IndyMac Bank's HELOC division. This morning, we're going to talk about market data, and then we're going to segue into talking about marketing. And what does the market mean? What does that mean for marketing? And that's really what has to be focused on, because public perception is what drives real estate. So about a week ago, we shot a video where Zillow said definitively the market's going to appreciate next year. And I can safely tell you, based on their analytical data, I understand their logic of the numbers. But that doesn't explain why they're losing market share, why they're selling out in individual markets. It doesn't explain why they're suddenly out of the business of purchasing real estate. And that thought stuck with me. What is the key piece of data that actually freaked out Zillow, right? What caused the tailspin? Okay, so we know something occurred. Let's take it in analytical order. Zillow suddenly, out of the blue, decides that they're going to start liquidating everything, start laying off staff, go into sort of this slumber mode, which causes a tumble in their stock. Why? Because they were buying property and they were selling it at a higher price. That is a funnel that was bringing them money, which was increasing the stock value. They completely eliminated that. The same can be said for Wells, Chase, and B of A, where equity lines were basically removed for the same reason. What market data scared them? So I knew about short sales in 2006 because I was there at IndyMac and saw the first ones. They asked me what I thought. I told them what they should do. I'm an asset manager who's working in a different division. And I said, well, you negotiate and you write it off and you move on. And ultimately that created IndyMac's first HELOC division. I worked with B of A and people over countrywide. We created the formalized guidelines that are sort of the modern day short sale process that you all seem to hate on some level or another. But we all know where it started. We know what state it started in. We know the area. And based on the data that Zillow makes available to all of you, they saw a key piece of data that caused them to just flat out freak out, get out of Dodge. And in fact, it'll be one of the very first states that will show short sales. If this were any market that was major, let's just go with it, for instance, like Arizona or Nevada, where you're talking 30% home value increases, or you're talking about Florida, which is having an incredible growth period. This would probably be enough to trigger that discussion in a meeting. That's not the location. And I'm about to show it to you analytically based on their numbers. And this is what flipped them out, right? And you can actually look at the history. We're at the top of the roller coaster, right? We've gone up the hill and we're flattening out at the top of the roller coaster, and prices are going to decline. In fact, I've said that prices generally will decline somewhere in the range of 10 to 16% over the year. By the time we get to the end of the year, they'll call it a market correction. They'll call it a flattening. They'll call it a curve. That's great, but that's probably going to take all year to hit the numbers that I'm talking about. In January, we actively started foreclosing on people that were approximately 6 months delinquent. It's approximately 1 million homes. To stay in step and stay out of trouble with the current administration, they're all reposting 90-day notices. So it's going to take till about March till you really start to see an impact. Although I'm going to show you Black Knight data where foreclosure activity is up 324%. It's a big number for people who keep quoting month over month and year over year. So that is a separate issue. This has nothing to do with it. This has to do with, based on the current set of protocols for the market, a lower interest rate, investor demand, investors wanting to buy in key markets, driving prices continually up and creating more equity, which is something that the current administration, both sides, have gotten behind and propelled to the general public. So as long as that continues to happen in the major markets, the narrative is fantastic. The real estate market is fantastic. Now, a week ago, we looked at the National Association of Realtors pending numbers as well as their sold numbers for the last couple of months, and we can obviously see a decline in that activity. Understandable. It's winter, right? We'll just put a spin on it. That's simple enough. What I keep going back to that ever since Tuesday has been rattling around in my particular brain as an asset manager is what scared Zillow to lose $500 million. Simple. What market scared them? One of these states, one of these markets scared the crap out of Zillow. What caused Zillow to lose $500 million? What was the twig that snapped in the wood? New York. New York's already gone flat. And I don't mean just flat, like it's in the bottom 10 with like Mississippi and Alabama. Everybody else is in the 30%. Everybody, Ohio is higher than New York. New York's gone dead flat, 0.8%, projecting year over year based on the numbers. No, California's still on an appreciation cycle. They're a couple of years behind. New York is what scares them. Why do you think New York scares Zillow before I show you guys the number? There's a very simple reason why you should be terrified that New York is going to be the beginning of short sales. It's going to be one of the first states that actually shows short sales. No doubt in my mind. Let's go back to what I said before. Everything is based on public perception. Whereas public perception generally shot, located, and put out to the general public? New York, New York. So if the first state that's going to be impacted by a flat or a depreciation, and at 0.8%, and I'll show you the difference. Like it's that dramatic, the difference. Like California is still on a 20% incline, right? Generally, if you break all these numbers down, this is how Zillow came up with it's going to appreciate 11 to 16%. That's based on sheer analytic data. I completely understand why they came up with that number and why they put that press release out. However, if you understand media, social media, and what you see happening in the market with panic and media, what happens when New York goes flat? Or as the year goes on, they depreciate. And people who bought last year now don't have the same equity, or speculators. The domino effect is in play. And how long does it take for those investors? Because we're talking market number 1 here. We're not talking market 25. We're not talking Ohio. We're not talking Nevada. We're talking market number 1 being in the bottom 10 right now. A New York minute would be correct. And if you were sitting there in November and you could project this out and you saw that market number 1 was about to go flat as you were trying to buy up all of the Western Hemisphere to appreciate its value, wouldn't that signal people to go, pfft? Because if their data is correct, right? They're 11% appreciation year over year. Why would you stop buying properties? Why would you? You're showing that to your investors, you can make another 10% next year on your investment. Instead, they decide to lose $500 million and close shop. You guys really should keep an eye on this. That's going to be a thing. And when this happens, it'll actually be quicker than I thought. So you've got a couple of events that are happening. New York's gone flat. By about March, you're looking at about 1 million properties coming online. No, the market's great. We can absorb 1 million properties. We can do this. Everything will keep appreciating into infinity. Really? We've raised the interest rate 1%. It's already affected home buying. You have to be aware of it. Does it make a difference on how you list a property? No, it affects how you list and how you get listings. All right, so follow me through on this. Let's take a look. All you have to do is go on Google and type in Home Advocates. It's homeadvocates.io. If you use the /events link, here it is, you can sign up for 2021 prices before the numbers all go up. Why? Because real estate agents will show back up. I can even show you on the data I'm about to provide for you where real estate agents are going to show up in this market. It's kind of funny. It's all very transparent when you look at the numbers. I don't know why I waited so long to look at the numbers, mainly because I think I was obsessed with Black Knight's numbers, right? I've been looking at foreclosure sales percentage starts, and yes, we're up 324%. Everything else is based on year over year and month over month, which doesn't make sense because you're in a pandemic. And before that, you were in a pandemic. So of course, those numbers are in reverse. What you want to look at is foreclosure sales and percentages over 90 days. They're up 324%. And you're really not going to see any movement until March. That's kind of where I started my day. But I went over to the Zillow Research page to go look at their numbers. You can easily do that by typing in Zillow market data. When you go to this page, you can download all of their crazy year over year numbers. And generally speaking, nobody's ever going to look at all this stuff. I mean, they've got piles of data because it's all analytics. And I'm not even saying this is all 100%. The ones I were slightly concerned with is this bad boy. What you're looking at here is the market appreciation data for the entire year. Okay, United States, based on metros all the way down. Feel free to download it. They've got it all the way back to 2000. How cool is that? So you can actually track this bad boy and look at where the last crash was, right? So in 2006, when I was working at IndyMac, let's just use March 31st as a basic number. Right in here is where I started to see short sales start to happen, but the market was still appreciating. There was no general effect on the market. You could see it. Then in 2007, they were still appreciating until one glorious day, it went the other way. And it was here, July of 2007. And that's when they all ramped up. That's when market perception changed, data perception changed. And that's when the decline of property values started to occur. And that continued all the way. Believe it or not, it was a full 5-year cycle, which is what it always is, 5 up, 5 down, right? And it kind of finally plateaued, calmed down. Now we start to see the appreciation, and there it is, plus or minus 5 years, right about to 2010. So real estate agents jumped in about July 2007. That's when they really got interested. Then in 2010, prices started to appreciate. They did, which is really interesting. They went down, they went up, they went down, they went up. But I continued to do what I did because we went through another cycle where the decline continued to occur, because it is market by market, but the overall data is what is perception for the news until we reached 2012. There's your full 5-year cycle. That's when you went down, up, flat, and then all of a sudden we started to skyrocket. There's no looking back at this point, right? And this continued to happen at an alarmingly consistent rate. And how did they do it? They took REOs and they removed them in 2010. Like, those properties didn't come back onto the market. Investors like BlackRock started to buy them in bulk, and right. This is also the time that the concept of the Great Reset, it's the fear that property is being taken away as a purchasable commodity. So this continued through 2015, and we did fine. Real estate in general was fine. We had about 1 million and change of listings. Yeah, overall. This wasn't supply and demand. This is steady growth. It's consistent. The interest rates were good. There was interest in the market, and we continued to show consistent, healthy growth. And then we start lining up for the pandemic. What gets interesting? Right at March 31st, 2020. In March, we kind of reached the whole little plateau of appreciation here. Pandemic hits. People are on lockdown. People stop selling their homes. You can actually go back to number of properties sold, and at March 2020, the number of available listings disappeared. They quickly and immediately they lowered the interest rate to continue to stimulate sales. And look what happens. We continue to grow when jobs are down, people are out of work. In fact, alarmingly so, nationally, this number keeps going. We started to stall out that year. Right below it is market number 1. Look what's happened. It started to stall at about the same time. Here's the bottom. Here are the bottom of the markets. And I'm talking, these are some out there. These are all the markets expected to lose value. These are places I don't know anything about. I don't know Taney County. Cochise County, Arizona. I mean, these are some really small places, right? But if you scroll up and you see this sitting in the middle of the pile, this sticks out. It's a 0.8% appreciation. This is flat. Anything under 1% in the world of banking or data analytical finance, anything under 1% is 0 to 1%. Like, that's a flat curve. Look where it is in New York. It's New York County, New York. It isn't a crazy spot. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, which is still creating increase in the general numbers, right? Yeah, there are places that are blowing up, right? Washington having huge growth. You can scroll down. You're going to see appreciation in all the major metros and states. It's just going to continue. These are all 20% or better places. Why isn't New York on this list? Why isn't New York on this list? These are crazy, crazy statistics. And from my perspective, this would cause alarm in me to see the number one market be in the bottom dwelling tier, right? Being under 1%. Of 23,252 reported markets, New York is in the bottom tier, like in the bottom tier. Everybody else is showing improvement. What would cause Zillow to stop buying properties if 90%, let's call it better, 95% of the markets that they were purchasing property in are showing gained improvements? This is what freaked him out. I mean, that is as simple as it gets. New York went flat because it's going to affect media. It's going to create content. That content will be that the sky is on fire and the world is falling apart. I mean, that's what's going to happen. I don't think it, I know it, because that's what flipped Zillow out. It was based on this one piece of analytical data that market number one has officially gone flat. Why New York? Why New York, New York? Why that county? Why that zip code? Why that location? Why did it go flat? Again, this is about a domino effect. That's what happened in 2007. It wasn't the fact that we had a market correction or people who should have been buying or not buying. The numbers are exactly the same. The pandemic created the same numbers as 2007. So they have ways to prepare for it, right? People will want to take advantage of their equity and people will want to list their homes. They don't want to go through the same thing. They won't want to see depreciation. That's a fact. That's what this company was built on. That's why real estate agents did it. So if you're asking me, where will real estate agents start showing up and investors start showing up in this market? I think you can set your watch. Q3. I like Q3 for real estate agents. 1,000-seat events for home advocates. Again, I do. I see very large events happening before the end of the year. I don't think it, I know it, because the numbers are the same. We're right at the beginning. How do we market to homeowners? Let's go in order. Number one, what's your list of people that you're meeting that have done forbearance agreements, right? How many people are you coming into contact with? How many people are you having a conversation with? Let's talk marketing. We have 3 methods to meeting those homeowners. The first is the Google approach, right? Of going out, meeting people face to face. I know this in San Diego. We're coming off of masks in the next week or so here in San Diego. People are going out. I can tell from the crowds here in San Diego. So let's take method number 1. How do you do it? I know this because I do it. I go out on my scooter. I meet people every day. They ask you what you do. I tell people I fix broken real estate. Oh, that's really interesting. What does that mean? I work with people who've missed payments or did forbearance agreements during the pandemic. Really, how do I find out more? Well, do you have your phone? Now, there are 2 methods here. You can either present them with the testimonial card that we've given you a template for. The second method is the tap card method, which is what I use when I meet people. The third method, for those of you, you're on page 1 of Google. Tell them to open Google and build credibility, just the same way when I do one of these calls. Open Google, type in home advocates, scroll down, your name's on the front page. No website you have ever purchased in your lifetime has gotten you that kind of power or position. That's huge impact when meeting people. And that's list building. That's how you get to referrals. That's method number one. Method number two, the tag system. Tags still work. Those that are in our program get leads sent to them. We actually have a brand new call center that we just activated within the last week. I've seen the first leads. I think Robert was the first one to get one through it. It's broken down more concisely. It's a different script. It's even tighter. I don't want anybody to assume why you're coming over. I want them to know why you're coming over. I'm trying to pre-qualify to let them know you're going to talk to them about their alternatives to foreclosure, right? That's method number two. And that method guarantees face-to-face. And those that adopt the advocate lifestyle quicker instead of the sales approach are more successful. Method number three is content. I can't get around it in this era. Your clients are gonna Google you. Why would any of us live in a fantasy land where we don't believe that clients are going to Google and research us? And I know for a fact, 80% of you don't have websites, don't have Google presence, don't have video content, which is why we created the RED program as a test program. It's been costly for me and expensive to make it run successfully. But again, did you have 1,000 people watching you last week? Did you have 24 people going to your website? You don't. None of you do. 0 of you actually consistently, except for those that are in my program. It's my job. And if you're funneling digital content, if you're meeting people on the street and working on your referral list and sending emails and taking the videos that you've shot with me and sending those out to people on your list, and you're putting tags up, adding more names to your list, that is called a funnel. That is it. It is not how good your listing presentation is. It is not your crush it mindset. It's simple mathematics to me. And that's how you do it. All of you that are on the call or anybody interested, go to homeadvocates.io/events. Take advantage of 2021 prices.